Talking Luther College baseball with head coach Alex Smith. And coach, you opened the season going down to Jacksonville, Illinois this past weekend. A 3-1 start, a couple wins over Wisconsin Platteville, and a split against North Central. What pleased you the most about the opening weekend?
I think there's a lot of good things to take away with it, and we always look at all facets of the game, obviously, when we're evaluating how an opening series goes, and it starts on the mound. I always obviously evaluate what we did on the hill, and we got through the first few games by utilizing just 6 pitchers. So we went 4-inning with Al Canote, 5-inning with a freshman, Teddy Klingsporn. Matt McKinney goes 6, Cody Reimer, freshman, goes 3. Then we go Blake Peterson 5 and Nate Whittem 2. So that was a great start. Obviously, it kept our pitchers and set us up to use a number of arms in Game 4. But I think overall our pitchers did a great job of attacking the strike zone. We talk about a 2-to-1 strikeout to base on ball ratio. So a lot of good things on the hill. I think coming into the year, a lot of people said, how was Luther going to score some runs? I think we came out and did a lot of good things, obviously, on the offensive side of the ball. Number of guys put up great numbers, and talk about it's different guys, different days. I think overall on the weekend, you look at Eric Pittman, who was the Iowa Conference Male Athlete of the Week. Had a strong 3 games. He sat out Game 4 just to rest him a little bit at that shortstop position, but put together a very strong opening weekend. But number of guys up and down the lineup did some good things for us that way. Defensively, we were pretty consistent, made some errors, but that's understandable. The first time I think you get outside and play games, we got to shore some of those things up. I think the game was moving a little too quickly for us at times, and we were efficient on the base paths. Didn't pick up a lot of stolen bases, but did some good things on the bases. But all 4 facets, a lot of good things to take away. But 8 practices coming up now before a big trip, and got to go back and work on some things too.
Was it just to get good to get on the field against someone else besides yourself?
It was. Those SRC scrimmages are a lot of fun for our guys, but at some point you get sick of hitting off your teammate or sick of throwing to your teammate. So, yeah, that was great. And obviously going down there, we played in some weather conditions that are probably pretty comparable to what we'll be playing for or playing in early April in the Iowa Conference. Somewhere upper 30s, low 40s with a little wind. So our guys got used to playing in something other than the 65 degrees and no wind in the SRC.
And talk about the things you need to shore up from that opening weekend. You said defensively you need to clean a few things up. What else do you need to improve on? I guess at this time of year you're looking to improve everything, but what do you need to improve on the most based on the opening 4 games?
Sure, from the pitching part of things, just attacking the strike zone and knowing when we're going to hit some spots and maybe not attack the strike zone so much. When we're ahead of the count, you don't always want to necessarily pitch to contact, so how can you get those big swings and misses when you need them? From the flip side of things, offensively, our strikeout base on ball ratio was very good. We walked and got hit by pitch a lot more than we struck out. Now I think the next step is continuing to drive the ball, picking up extra base hits, and hitting to all sides of the field. That's something we'll be working on over the next couple of weeks of using the whole field and hitting the location a little bit. But and then back to the defensive part, I think one of the struggles early in a year when you're inside is cuts and relays. We're not obviously able to simulate full outfield throws or full field inside. So the communication part of it's probably the biggest thing on the defensive side we want to continue to work on.
And how much of that is just maybe some new players having to work together?
Yeah, exactly. I think every year, obviously, a lineup changes as guys walk out the door and new guys come in and new personnel moves to different positions. And we played a few guys at multiple positions on the weekend. So it takes time to get to know each other. I think of several comments from our players over the past few weeks that they feel like the team chemistry continues to build as the guys are getting to know each other that are new to the program. And I think that's an exciting thing. And I think when that's happening, even off the field, that's going to add to some good things on the field.
How fluid is your lineup right now?
Well, we started, I believe, 13 guys on the weekend, and I think that's kind of a number we're going to be at early on here as we go down to the spring trip and open up with 6 non-conference games and see where things are at. We'll have some guys coming back here now off some injury as well that will add into the mix, and I think our goal is we want to get to know the team more and more as we move along, and by the time we get to that BV weekend down in Tucson, that we feel pretty good that we got a lineup established.
And talk about how you approach this spring trip. What are you looking to get out of this trip? And knowing the fact you got really your conference opening weekend down in Arizona at the end of it, how do you approach this spring trip differently, perhaps?
Yeah, it's much different than in years past where you go down and you play 10 non-conference opponents. You approach things a little bit differently. Biggest thing on a spring trip is how you're going to line up for pitching. Well, the guys obviously that throw early in the spring trip for us are probably the guys that are going to be throwing against Buena Vista. A guy that throws midweek of a spring trip probably not going to be ready to come back and throw against a BV. So that's probably the biggest thing we have to have in place by the time we get down there is who's going to be throwing when, so we're set up for the backside part of that trip. But we want to make sure guys are getting their live at-bats, getting live action, at the same time being well rested for the Final Four games, which is obviously the most important part of that trip.
And Who are some of the teams you'll be playing down there?
Sure, we'll take on Concordia out of Wisconsin, who we have not played in the past. Some familiar teams, Carleton College, Carthage, Lawrence, Valley City State. So a couple new teams to add in the mix that we haven't seen before, and a few teams that are typically down in Tucson with us over the past 2 years that we've seen in the past. So it's always exciting to take those teams on, some good teams from around the Midwest.
All right, hopefully you can keep building when it comes to your team down in Arizona, and hopefully you can get a lot of good results, especially that opening weekend against Buena Vista. In conference play, we'll try to melt the snow back home here, and hopefully you can get on the field come April 1st.
Thanks, Darren.
Luther College baseball coach Alex Smith previewing the spring trip coming up here in a couple weeks.